Okay, great. Dr. Cook-Glaser, we have all the speakers from the opening session. I think it's ready. I'd like to hand over the floor to you to moderate the opening session and the keynote. Dr. Cook-Glaser, please.
Thank you, Wei. Well, welcome to the high-level dialogue on the Partnership in Action for Science, Technology, and Innovation for the SDGs roadmaps. This event is supported by Ghana and is co-organized with Japan, UN JETSA, European Commission's Joint Research Center, Unesco, UN. My name is Bill Cook-Glaser. I was a co-chair of the first 10-member group of the Technology Facilitation Mechanism. The STI for SDGs roadmaps is, in my view, one of the most important initiatives of the TFM. Much has been accomplished in a short time, and you will hear about that today. But much remains to be done, and the Partnership in Action, which you will also hear about, will help to chart the path forward. It is my pleasure to introduce three speakers who, in 2 to 3 minutes each, will provide welcoming remarks. And they are, I will introduce them, but then have each one speak in turn. First speaker, His Excellency Mr. Harold Ajiman, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of the Permanent Mission of Ghana to the United Nations. The second speaker is His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Koba, Ambassador, Chargé d'Affaires of the Permanent Mission of the Republic of Indonesia to the United Nations and co-chair of the 2021 STI Forum. And the third speaker is Her Excellency Ms. Marina Ivanovic, Deputy Permanent Representative of the Permanent Mission of the Republic of Serbia to the UN. So Mr. Ajiman, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Excellencies, distinguished representatives of member states and stakeholder institutions, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to make some opening remarks at this online side event, which builds on the work of the United Nations Interagency Task Team on STI for SDGs roadmaps, within the framework of the Technology Facilitation Mechanism launched by paragraph 70 of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. As one of the 5 initial pilot countries, now 6, with the inclusion of Ukraine, Ghana reaffirms the importance of the instrument of STI roadmaps for the effective implementation of the SDGs. As we all may be aware, the STI has a capacity to help alleviate societal challenges and address pertinent environmental concerns. Indeed, the experiences of most countries during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic last year, when economic nationalism and export controls were strongest, show that when pressed, latent capacity can be unleashed to address national challenges in a collaborative manner. From new applications for tracing and contacting persons exposed to the virus, to devices for washing and sanitizing hands at public places, through the production of ventilators, sanitizers, and face masks, to scientific research on the sequencing of the genome of the virus and the record time production of vaccines, there are clear examples that when STI is handled in somewhat systematic manner, can support the sustainable implementation of design solutions for identified problems. The reality of this time, however, is also that the COVID-19 pandemic has reversed progress towards the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in ways that are deeply impacting and long-lasting. Traditional support mechanisms for the implementation of the SDGs would therefore benefit from a boost in partnerships for STIs, as that terrain represents an additional opportunity to restore reverse progress and enhance implementation of the SDGs, cognizant that a year and a half of the decade of action has already been lost. Moreover, it will seem to be the case that an effective technology facilitation mechanism has mutual benefits for all participating parties, even if it may not seem so in the immediate horizon. It is interesting to know in this regard that in the 1700s, it was a West African slave, Onesimus, who introduced the concept of inoculation to the United States, a scientific approach that today stands as a pro against the existential threat unleashed by COVID-19. In conclusion, it is my hope that this interaction among member states, stakeholder institutions, academia, and experts will generate critical pathways for partnership in action, support of the STI for SDGs. It is also my hope that the side event strengthen the ownership of countries over the STI process, help to elevate the policy debate on STIs for SDGs in national jurisdictions, and mobilize national efforts for the implementation of the SDGs, all underpinned by a strong and capacitated partnership. The window of opportunity to support partnerships for the STI for SDG roadmaps is now. Any ambivalence on our part may create a situation where the lost opportunity may not be recoverable. Let us therefore act, and let us act for our common interest as we encourage even more countries to embrace the roadmaps. I thank you very much for your attention and wish the side event every success.
Pio, you're muted.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Mr. Koba, you have the floor.
Ambassador Koba, you are muted. Sorry.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, panelists, and participants. It is an honor for me to deliver today's opening remarks on the Partnership in Action on Science, Technology, and Innovation for SDGs roadmaps. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, science, technology, and innovation has been the lifeline for us to stay connected, for governments and businesses to operate, and our world to recover. There is no better time than now to close the STI's gap. The better we are at innovating and adopting science and technology, the better we will be in terms of gaining ground as well as protecting the advances on sustainable development. The best approach is to achieve this is by working together in partnership. And yes, this might sound cliche, but we all know the power of partnership. On that note, allow me to share some views on the matter. First, science and technology innovation are tools that have the capacity to narrow inequalities, but they can also have the opposite effect. Together, we should ensure that all people have access to STI. A multi-stakeholder approach is key in creating an enabling and inclusive environment that aim to support the application of STI for the SDGs. Second, when science benefits everyone, then we know that we have availed of its maximum power. However, we are not there yet. Hence, mobilizing support to strengthen science, technology, and innovation in developing countries needs to continue. This includes by financing investment in information and communication technology infrastructure, as well as enhancing official development assistance for STI. Third, international and multi-stakeholder cooperation should develop local capacities through, among others, policy learning, knowledge sharing, capacity building, technological development and transfer, as well as enhancing digital literacy and skills. Ladies and gentlemen, let me add that the continued contribution and support by UN agencies to scale up member states' STI capacities in achieving the SDGs targets in line with their needs and priorities is indeed crucial. The Partnership in Action for STI on SDG roadmap could play a key role, as highlighted during the 2021 STI Forum in May, which myself and Ambassador Baebeschenko co-chaired. The forum took note the need for the Technological Facilitator Mechanism, or TFM, to further promote international cooperation on policy, plans, and capacity building. This positive momentum is there, but we need to keep the ball rolling. With this, I wish you a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Now, Ms. Ivanovic, you have the floor.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, friends of sustainable development. Science, technology, innovation, capacity, strengths, and results so far are fundamental pillars that can facilitate the achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals defined by the 2030 Agenda. Today's discussion is an outstanding opportunity to overview perspectives and the lessons learned from the UN Global Pilot Program on STI for SDGs roadmaps, and to map out partnership in action as the way to mobilize resources and partners to allow more countries to develop their STI for SDGs roadmaps. In that respect, we sincerely support the partnership in action activities and encourage more countries to participate. In this context, Serbia is ready to share its experiences in the framework of the Global Pilot Program for the development of the STI for SDGs roadmap based on smart specialization methodology. With dedicated support from the Joint Research Center of European Commission and UNIDO, we developed the Smart Specialization Strategy Action Plan with an increased focus on the SDGs as a key framework for the strategy implementation, and which pays further attention to societal and environmental issues. This action plan became the first Serbian STI roadmap for reaching the SDGs, and Serbian government approved it in April 2021. The Global Pilot Program on STI for SDGs roadmaps has helped us to understand how the action plan can establish the linkages between the smart specialization strategy and the SDG goals, as well as how STI for SDG roadmap can enable, for example, the digital transformation of the economy, which is one of the most important goals of our government. The important role and value of STI capacities we have was in particular visible during the still actual COVID-19 pandemic, when thanks to our science and innovation funds, we were able to fund 26 innovative and scientific projects that will remain applicable and useful to our society even after the pandemic. In conclusion, we would like to commend the Partnership in Action initiative. Serbia is proud to be recognized and proposed to co-lead, together with Ghana, the alliance of like-minded countries that will support the Partnership in Action. The alliance of the informal group could provide strategic advice on how to move forward, steer partnerships, and mobilize funds. I wish you a successful meeting, and thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Slavo Radosevic. He's Professor of Industry and Innovation Studies at University College London. You will have about 8 or 9 minutes to give a keynote address. Professor Radosevic, you have the floor.
I hope you can hear me. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to talk to you today and briefly introduce some initial insights from our research project, which is directly related to today's agenda. Here are the names of my team members. My colleague Randall Bruno is here also to answer any possible questions. Motivation for this presentation is a simple fact that STI can accelerate progress towards SDG goals. That's kind of almost obvious by itself. And the fastest route to do that is through technology upgrading. What we have done in this project, we have developed a new framework which is particularly relevant for low and middle income economies, which goes beyond only R&D based growth. Why? Because countries which are on low level of income and middle level of income have drivers of growth which are not entirely focused on the R&D. Actually, this is a quite marginal driver, and there are many others which we try to capture. So we are developing conceptual and measurement framework which takes that into account. The measurement framework takes into account 3 dimensions. One is the intensity of technology upgrading The second is the structural transformation or breadth of technology upgrading. And third is the interaction with the global economy. Of course, interaction by itself does not guarantee that there will be technology upgrading, but is one important ingredient in that process, is important moderating variable. So in a nutshell, because we don't have much time, I just want to give you flavor of the framework so that we can then focus on the crucial point of my presentation, which is on the structural transformation. So here we have a framework which contains the first component, which is the intensity of technology upgrading, which goes beyond the R&D, goes beyond technology capability, includes very much indicators on production capability. Each of these indexes is then composed of several indicators. The most important for us today is this second component, which is a structural transformation, where we include a variety of indicators related to infrastructure upgrading, structural diversification in terms of new types of knowledge, and the two most important for us today are digitalization and greening. And this is what I want to pay attention today most. So digitalization, what is its relationship to technology upgrading? We have data on almost all countries in the world for which data are available. Of course, it's a huge methodological issue here. And here we have a comparison between on the horizontal axis, intensity of technology upgrading, which is this composite indicator which measures a broader range of technology activities, and the degree of digitalization. And you see there are three clusters of countries, and there is a positive relationship between these two components. And here we always highlight here global pilot countries. The same is a positive relationship when we take the structural transformation, where on horizontal axis we have a breadth of technology upgrading. Here we have digitalization. So the insight, the first which you can get from this, that if you are doing well in terms of technology upgrading, you are doing also probably because you are doing something about the digitalization. Digitalization is an essential component of technology upgrading, and that is something which is basically determined by the nature of contemporary technological change. What is much more complicated and complex, what is the relationship between the greening in terms of not only restructuring of the energy sector, but greening of all economic and industrial activities, and what is the relationship of the greening with technological upgrading, whether it affects the intensity of technology upgrading and the structural transformation. When we look at the relationship between the index, this component of the intensity of technology upgrading, and we look at the greening, which is a set of indicators which you can see in the annex of this presentation, what we see? We see that basically there is a negative relationship, especially when you look at the clusters of specific countries, which means that technology upgrading by itself is not sufficient to improve greening. This is the outcome of the current technological trajectories, which are also not sufficiently green, so to say. When we then compare the structural transformation, this index which shows the breadth of technology upgrading, and the greening, we see that there is some kind of U-type of relationship, which is a kind of logical, because you expect that countries which are low in terms of technology upgrading and which are high, that they are doing relatively better, but countries which are in the middle of the distribution, there is a kind of trade-off. These countries, if they want to improve on technology upgrading, that does not necessarily mean that they will improve in the greening because of the material resource intensity of that level of development. So there is a problem which have to be solved, how these countries can contribute to that. And the final point here is there a relationship between two technological transformation? One is the digitalization, the other is greening transformation. Ideal scenario would be that these two transformations are complementary to each other. Yes, that's what we would all like to see. But at the current state, when we compare digitalization on horizontal axis and greening, we see basically that there is no relationship between these two, which means that globally, we still seem to be far from something which we would call ICT-based greening. And there's a huge potential in merging these two technological trajectories, but that would mean that much more policy activity should be done in redirecting technology efforts. And I want to highlight what are the four main takeaways and what are the policy implications. First, we think that this approach, which is much more suitable for low and middle income countries because it's broader, it goes beyond the R&D based growth. Second is that the digitalization is highly compatible with technology upgrading at low and middle income countries level. But there is a challenge of greening and technology upgrading for middle income countries. There is a trade-off. And finally, the global challenge is how do we move towards the ICT-based greening? And how do we change the current technological trajectories? What is the kind of your, as policymakers, what are the kind of messages for you to think of or take as a lessons from here? First is that S&T policies for sustainable development should go beyond R&D driven growth. They should be transformative and include both digitalization and greening. Second thing is that technology upgrading for sustainable development has a key problem, challenge. Challenge is coordination failures. Why? How to integrate largely disconnected policies, because this is the type of innovation policy which goes well beyond just the Ministry of Science and Technology and encompasses all policy areas. There is almost no boundary there. And the SDG roadmaps are one of such pathways, how to mobilize these synergies and how to make aware policymakers of these coordination and synergy issues which are essential here. The crucial challenge is then weak institutional capacities. Why? Because these are systemic policies, and systemic policies require systemic instruments. But saying that is easy, but we are facing the crucial challenge of the institutional capacities for systemic policies. And especially in low and middle income economies, this is where the biggest support should be given. How do you enhance policies which are institutionally quite demanding? And in that context, I would like to highlight the importance of the global pilot countries, which are extremely significant learning exercises for everybody who is participating here. And we expect that there will be lots of kind of spillovers and learning exercises which we can take based on their experience and on the implementation roadmaps. So this is in a very brief, it's a much longer presentation, and there is an annex there for further details. And my colleague Bruno will be happy to answer the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Radosevic. That's a very insightful and interesting presentation. I'm sure many of us will be looking at your slides to learn further. I can just speak for my country, the United States. The government is very much focused on the issues you discuss, digitalization, technology upgrading, and greening. And I think your insights pointing some of the challenges achieving both digitalization and greening, I think something that we all have to pay attention to. And also emphasizing institutional upgrading, institutional capacities. That's certainly the main focus of the STI for SDGs roadmaps. We also heard in our opening session from some of the countries that are involved, and there are more countries likely will become involved with the roadmap initiative, which the Partnership in Action we hope will help to facilitate. Now I'd like to turn over the moderator role to Ms. Karisha Abdul Kareem. She is a co-chair of the new 10-member group. She is from South Africa. She is both a clinical professor in clinical epidemiology at Columbia University and Pro-Vice Chancellor for African Health at the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. Karisha, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Prof. Csir. Excellencies, distinguished participants. It's a real great pleasure to be able to moderate this information session, which will focus on the main achievements on STI for the SDG roadmaps from the perspectives of the key partners. This is a fairly brief session with many distinguished speakers, and we have 4 panelists and 6 discussants. And in the interest of time, I'm going to just very quickly introduce them so that they have more time for their inputs. First on, we have Mr. Wei Lu, who's the coordinator for UNDESA and also IATT for the SDGs moving forward. We have Dr. Peggy Oti-Boteng, who's the Director, Division of Science Policy and Capacity Building, Unesco. We have Mr. Jean-Paul Adam, Director for Technology, Climate Change, and Natural Resource Management at UNECA. We have Mr. Alessandro Rinaldi, who's the Head of Urban and Territorial Development Unit, Joint Research Center for the European Commission. They each have 3 minutes, and I please appeal to you to stay to the 3 minutes. And then when we move to the discussants, I'll introduce each of them. So over to you, Whaley.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friend, son of science, technology, innovation, on behalf of Dr. Shantanu Mukherjee, the Chief Policy Analysis Branch in DESA, I'm pleased to share DESA's perspective at this high-level dialogue on the partnership in action. As a co-organizer of this important event, DESA is formally committed to help advance the technology facilitation mechanism created by member states as a part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. This interagency and multi-stakeholder effort is the UN flagship endeavor in accelerating the implementation of the SDG through science, technology, and innovation. Dear colleagues, we all understand the importance of STI in our day-to-day life and the way in which we are transforming the world. Today, more than ever, there is widespread acceptance of the vital role of STI in understanding, responding to, and recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. At the same time, there is also recognition that there is no one-size-fits-all. Challenges, opportunities, and gaps in how STI is applied towards SDGs varies across countries. It is in this context that we find this TFM initiative on STI for SDG roadmaps especially encouraging. We are piloting new ways to work together, new partnership and financing to connect the dots and implement the SDGs, and this is where STI roadmap comes in. STI road mapping enables a systematic, holistic, and integrated review of the possibilities. DESA has a privilege to coordinate this broad partnership, which lead to an effective collaboration through this TFM initiative, co-led by DESA, Unesco, European Commission Joint Research Center, the World Bank, and UNCTAD. The working group has undertaken substantive analytical and operational work on STI roadmaps and action plans for SDGs. Over the last 2 years, the guidebook for the preparation of STI for SDGs roadmap was jointly developed and is now translated into UN official languages. And beyond that, a global pilot program has been rolling out. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate the group's achievement. Many of my co-workers, teammates, and friends are presenting today. Your views and recommendations on how to realize the full potential of STI for SDG roadmaps will be an important input to carry this work forward. Okay, I realize my time is up, so I like to cut it short. Okay, looking forward, we are looking forward to achieve more and welcome a broad range of partners to come towards to support this work, which is now at a critical moment. With such support, this important work will be able to reach more developing countries. I'd like to recognize my colleagues from UN Secretary General's Tech Envoy Office in this meeting. We are really glad to see the synergies between this work and the implementation of UN Secretary General's roadmap for digital cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, looking forward to your suggestions and the fruit discussion from today's meeting. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Wei, for your coordination, for your comprehensive overview of the status of the STIs for roadmaps. I think it really lays the foundations for the next presentations. Over to you, Dr. Peggy Oti-Botwan. You muted, Dr. Otway.
just to share. Can you see my screen? No?
We can see your screen, Peggy.
All right, okay. And it's all right, okay. Thank you very much, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and colleagues. It's our pleasure to be here today. My presentation is to just give you an overview of what the achievements are. As indicated by the previous, presenters, the SDG for the STI roadmap was initiated through the technology facilitation mechanism and became a very strong delivery mechanism for harnessing science, technology, innovation to contribute to the implementation of the Agenda 2030. Today, building strategic STI roadmaps and robust STI systems will help countries to ensure socioeconomic recovery and to build back better. The main achievements that we, as a team have achieved include the publication of the guidebook in 8 languages, as indicated earlier. We also have 2 background papers, operational note based on guidebook. We've also launched interagency task team series of policy briefs. 4 policy briefs have been published, and we thank Ghana for being part of it. As part of the process, we've also contributed to many expert group and recent workshops, mainly the STI roadmap, the high-level political forum side event. In November, where we also presented our work on the UN 75th General Assembly as a side event. On the 3rd of May, we also had STI forum on high-level event. We have in our pilot countries, Ethiopia, Ghana, India, Kenya, and Serbia. And we've also got indication from 20 countries that are interested. As part of this process, we've also developed strong partnership in action. And just to give you an indication of UNESCO's contribution to this partnership in action, UNESCO, has developed its standard setting instrument, which was adopted in 2017 on recommendation on science and scientific researchers. Member states have used as reference in developing their STI roadmap. We've also developed, the methodology, which is called the GO-SPIN, STI policy design, analysis, monitoring, and evaluation. And again, this is a reference document for many of the countries. In recent time, and as you're all aware, UNESCO is also leading the development of a UN recommendation on a UNESCO recommendation on open science. This is a standard setting instrument, just like the standard setting instrument on recommendation on science and scientific researchers. Again, we're also leading the development of a recommendation on ethics of artificial intelligence. We hope that in November, this will be approved by the General Conference. As part of UNESCO's contribution to this partnership action, we also develop flagship reports. This year we launched in March Valuing Water, which is the report on UN water. Just a couple of weeks ago, on the 11th of June, we also launched UNESCO's flagship on the UNESCO Science Report, Racing Against Time. And we encourage all of you to read it because it has a lot of data, monitoring the STI development of many countries. And the last one, but not the least, is the UNESCO report on engineering for the sustainable development. And again, this is a 10-year report, but what we see here in many of these reports is data. And we encourage all countries as part of the STF for the SDG roadmap to ensure that data it's well developed and shared. To conclude, I would like to express UNESCO's commitment to the work with UN and international partners to further support member states in STI for sustainable recovery and future resilience. We are ready to support more countries that would like to join the program, but also to accompany those like Ghana and Serbia who are in the implementation stage. I would like to thank all of you, and on behalf of the Director General of UNESCO and on behalf of the Assistant Director General of Science, we look forward to hearing the views of other partners in the interagency tax team agencies in this session, and I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that UNESCO update, Dr. Boateng. Over to you, Mr. Adam.
Yes, good afternoon and good morning to everyone who's following our discussions, and thank you, Karisha, for giving me the floor. And on behalf of UNECA, we are delighted to be able to bring our contribution in this event. And to echo a little bit what the Honourable Representative of Ghana had pointed out at the start, is that even if Africa has been at a disadvantage in terms of stimulus in responding to the pandemic, we've seen innovation come to the fore, including the production, manufacture of medical supplies and PPE. And this gives us encouragement to emphasize the upscaling of the STIs for SDG roadmaps on the continent, to be able to truly transform our development perspectives and look at a truly green recovery, one which is aligned with the SDGs and with the principles of the Paris Agreement. I'd also like to salute the integrated and coordinated partnerships among the key partners who are driving this process: UNESCO, DESA, UNCTAD, the UN regional commissions, in Africa, the African Union, and particularly the member states, and particularly the pilot countries, 3 of which are from Africa. 3 key messages from ECA. Firstly, the Africa Science, Technology and Innovation Forum, which is now taking place annually, provides ongoing support for the implementation of the STI policy and strategy and upscaling these efforts. In terms of the forum itself, it's held as part of the African Regional Forum on Sustainable Development, and it has catalyzed coordination on a few key issues, including, for example, artificial intelligence and nanotechnology, with the launch of a regional center on artificial intelligence in Congo-Brazzaville earlier this year. This also strengthened the focus on technologies that allow us to build forward better, including, for example, the affordable deployment of renewable technology and the way in which we can use it to build regional value chains. We're also seeing a continued growth in innovation hubs, with a total number of 643 in existence at the beginning of last year, which is more than double the 314 in 2016. The second key message is the focus on capacity building, and there has been a dramatic increase in these efforts focusing on the environment for STIs in Africa. The focus has been emphasized through policy decisions recommended at the African STI Forum, and also through initiatives that have promoted investments in capacity building by government and the private sector. The ECA has actively supported this development through, for example, boot camps to impart key skills in design and innovation to young people. And we are also supporting the development of entrepreneurial universities on the continent that are adapted to facilitating synergies between academia and the business world. And the third and final message is about leveraging the African Digital Transformation Strategy, which was approved last year. Africa needs to be empowered in the digital space, and the adoption of this strategy provides an overarching direction to close the gaps in the digital divide. And this has been further supported by the work that ECA is doing to support the implementation of digital identity systems. And this is a way of ensuring that no one is left behind, that government services are adapted to providing support in a digital world, and empowering citizens in the digital space by moving beyond informality, which is quite often the situation in relation to small and medium enterprises on the continent. So in conclusion, we'd like to thank all of the partners, and I'd like to make particular mention of the Department of Science and Innovation in South Africa that have supported the STI forums as part of the African Regional Forum on Science, Technology and Innovation. Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing from other experiences.
Thanks so much, Mr. Adam. It's wonderful to hear the digital divides in Africa being closed. I think they were largest there, so great progress. We'll move on to Mr. Rinaldi.
Thank you, moderator. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that we are pleased as the European Commission's Joint Research Center to be part of the IAT working group on STI for SDGs roadmaps, and to contribute on what I think is now a sound, structured, and I think also powerful package of tools and initiatives. I would like to emphasize that this experience for us has been a learning and reflection opportunity in order to rethink our own methodology and work in the European Union. Our contribution focused mainly on the smart specialization approach, which was conceived and broadly tested in EU countries and subnational entities. And this has greatly benefited so far from the work undertaken with and by the UN Interagency Task Team, and in particular, from the activities undertaken within the Global Pilot Program for STI for SDGs roadmaps. Smart specialization, we think that smart specialization has brought forward a specific flavor to this work, which is the localization of the efforts, meaning the understanding of both challenges and opportunities which are embedded in territories, in strengths and weaknesses of single places and communities, including institutions, which is a key topic that was mentioned earlier on in this event. We actually feel that the work of the UN IAT is kind of co-creation of a bunch of tools and methodologies which I think altogether join forces and make things I would say easier and to some extent more understandable to all countries to try to harness science, technology, and innovation to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. We are working following the contributions in and by the UN Interagency Task Team. We're working on further refining smart specialization, working towards a second generation of smart specialization, which would look more prominently towards sustainability challenges, taking from the experiences of COVID-19 and of the launch of the EU Green Deal, the digital transitions, as well as the overarching Agenda 2030 ambitions. In this context, we are about to finalize a report that would put onto paper this new idea and new generation of smart specialization with a great focus on sustainability and global challenges. Going back to the Global Pilot Program, I would like to thank our partner countries, main partner countries, Serbia and Ukraine, and to acknowledge our fruitful cooperation with all partners in IAT and namely with UNIDO. We are proud that Serbia has adopted its STI for SDGs roadmap in April this year. This was highlighted by Ambassador Ivanovic earlier on, and they have already started the implementation phase. We also appreciate good progress of Ukraine and would be pleased and happy to further support this process. We really believe that it's time to scale up this global pilot program. We think that reshaping national STI agendas towards global challenges is a key element to really make SDGs achievable in concrete terms. And therefore, one last word from our side, we are really committed to further give our contribution to support this initiative, the partnership in the further partnership in action, and the development of the Global Pilot Program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rinaldi. And thanks to our distinguished panel's members for their presentations. We'll now move on to the discussants. And first on, we have Mr. Kareem Hassan, who is the Executive Director of Exwa Technology Center. Over to you, Mr. Hassan.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be part of this very inspiring event and represent the voice of the Arab region, which is facing complex development and technology challenges, from the lack of local skills and capacities to the deficiency of the enabling environment and policies. Adding to all of that, the urgent situation of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Accordingly, we at Unesco believe that there is no way around building a strong foundation of STI that serves the regional SDGs and support Arab countries to establish their STI for SDGs multimodality roadmaps. We believe that the planning and implementation of STI roadmaps in the Arab countries shouldn't be only the task of governments or the United Nations, but also the different Arab communities should take part in this process. Following the theme of this important event, Partnership in Action, ESCWA built a regional working group to establish a region-wide capacity development initiative on STI for SDG road mapping. ESCWA, in cooperation with the UNESCO Regional Office and Cambridge University, is establishing the first regional capacity building platform for STI for SDGs road mapping. And with the League of Arab States, we established a regional network to mobilize resources for STI road mapping. Along with our valuable cooperation and partnership with UNDESA, ISESCO, which stands for the Islamic Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, and UNCTAD and several regional and international organizations. In addition to cooperating with international research institutions to give us an external eye on our activities and plans. We utilize these partnerships nowadays to support our regional pilot program for road mapping for SDGs. We are looking forward to learning from the experiences of the countries involved in the global pilot program. And sure, we would love to support these countries and others as well by sharing our outcomes of our activities and findings during the last few months. At the end of my intervention, I believe that no country should do it alone and reinvent the wheel in some cases. Instead, we should activate our global partnership in action, exchange our success and failure experiences, and learn from the positive experiences worldwide. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hassan. And we'll move on to our second discussant, Mr. Jonathan Wong, who's the Chief of Technology and Innovation, Trade, Investment and Innovation Division, ESCAP. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. On the question of a major achievement of the SDG Roadmap Initiative, from the Asia-Pacific region, we're really seeing the influence it is having on STI policymaking in the region in terms of inclusivity, SDG orientation, and indeed multi-stakeholder participation as well. To give examples, in Mongolia, ESCAP has supported putting inclusion right at the heart of Mongolia's first ever digital strategy. In Cambodia, we have supported the integration of not only economic objectives, but societal and environmental objectives within the STI roadmap for the country. And in Indonesia, we are currently supporting a multi-stakeholder process and open policymaking dialogue on the country's first ever digital skills strategy for all. Just to close very briefly, I know we're short of time, I really do commend those who have supported this initiative, and especially the leadership of the champion countries, who are really providing the success models of how we can articulate, develop and implement STI policy to really accelerate progress on the SDGs, and providing those case models that could be replicated by others. I congratulate you all. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wong, for being so precise and yet concise in your comments. We next have Mr. Selvaraju Ramaswamy, who's the Head of Research and Extension Unit from FAO's Innovation Center. Over to you, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you, Moderator. Excellencies, distinguished experts and participants. FAO strongly believes that science, technology, and innovation is the key accelerator in supporting the Agenda 2030. This is possible through the transformation to more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems for better production, better nutrition, better environment, and a better life, leaving no one behind. STI is central to the use of agroecological approaches, conservation and sustainable use of agricultural biodiversity, improvement of nutrition, combating antimicrobial resistance, improving crop, livestock, and aquatic animal health, and sustainable intensification of production systems, and more. The Partnership in Action initiative will serve as a key platform to strengthen the development and implementation of STI for SDGs roadmaps that also incorporates the priorities of food and agricultural sector. We believe that the Partnership in Action will provide opportunities for scaling up FAO's efforts to strengthen the capacities of agricultural innovation systems at the country level. At the same time, FAO's work can also contribute to the broader STI roadmap processes by bringing agriculture and food security perspectives, building on the experiences and lessons from our work on strengthening agricultural innovation systems through the Tropical Agricultural Platform Partnership. A G20 mechanism is a multi-stakeholder platform to build capacity of agricultural innovation systems at the country level. FAO is keen and continue to be part of the discussions related to global pilot program on STI for SDGs roadmaps and support to bring agriculture and food security perspectives, building on our work related to agricultural innovation systems at the country level. Thank you for your attention. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramaswamy, and we'll move straight on to Ms. Yu-Ping Chan, who's the Senior Program Management Officer in the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Technologies Office. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. Much thanks to the organizers for inviting the Office of the Tech Envoy to be here today. I think a number of speakers have stressed the importance of digital technology and digitalization in both achievement of SDGs as well as recovery of COVID. Professor Radosevic had said that it is fundamental to really how we move forward as an international community. And indeed, we've seen through this COVID pandemic how digital technologies allows us to continue working and even gather here today. I think in that context of realizing the importance of digital technologies, the Secretary General of the United Nations has repeatedly emphasized that this will be a core challenge for the United Nations going forward. And it is this reason for which he launched his Secretary General's roadmap on digital cooperation last year, which lays out his vision of an open, free, and secure digital future for all. The Office of the Tech Envoy is tasked with coordinating the implementation of the roadmap, and we are proud to work with UN partners, multi-stakeholder tech companies, civil society in bringing forward this vision. And as part of this, we are very glad to contribute to the implementation of the various important initiatives laid out today, the draft pilot program, the STI roadmaps, to really ensure that the emphasis on making sure we harness digital technologies for the benefits of all, the achievement of the SDGs while mitigating their challenges as well, is a key focus of our work. There have been already, even though our office is very young, collaboration quite new, very important initiatives and work underway, such as, for instance, our collaboration with the Interagency Work Task Team on the creation of an AI resource guide, the exploration of possible uses of open source technologies, and other very important areas of collaboration where we can ensure that digital technologies are a core underpinning of the achievement of the SDGs and part of the vision of the STI roadmaps. We look forward to further collaboration with all interagency and multi-stakeholder partners, including through a mapping of the digital and technology initiatives within the UN system, so we can explore further consolidation and strengthening and synergies in ensuring that this is firmly anchored in the STI roadmaps and our service to the member states in ensuring digital technologies as part of reaching our 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Thank you so much, Madam Moderator.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chan. And next we have the Senior Strategy and Operations Officer from the Office of the Vice President, Human Resources, the World Bank Groups. Over to you, Mr. Kareem.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's great to see you all, Excellencies, colleagues, and friends. It has been a great pleasure and honor for the World Bank and for me to be co-leading this IATT's initiative on STI for SDGs roadmaps with UN colleagues, Government of Japan, European Commission, Kenya, India, and all other pilot countries and partners. Working closely with all of the pilot countries, one of the early lessons I would like to highlight here is the importance of evaluating the multiple alternative technological pathways and engaging, and not only engaging, but mobilizing the private sector, civil society, and the broader stakeholder locally as well as globally. Now is the time to apply lessons from the pilot experiences and to further strengthen national STI systems and to scale up the international STI partnerships and investments. So it's, the partnership in action has never been more timely and relevant. And when we all recover from COVID-19 pandemic and pursue green, resilient, and inclusive development. So we pretty much look forward to further exploring opportunity for collaboration at the World Bank, and also including my new capacity, as some of you might have noticed through my new role, to capacitate and strengthen the World Bank's institutional capability to step up the contribution to the client countries, including the SDI. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Kanira, and we're looking forward to your engagement in your new role and the continuing role of the World Bank in the capacity development. Our final speaker, a discussant, is the Industrial Policy Officer, Research and Industrial Policy Advice Division, UNIDO. Mr. Rodriguez, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I would like to start by thanking the organizers for granting UNIDO the opportunity to join this event. I mean, that's what the speaker has mentioned, that the ongoing work around the STI roadmaps for the SDGs connects national development strategies to the global development agenda enshrined by the SDGs. And today we celebrate really the progress by the 6 countries participating in the global pilot program. And UNIDO in particular looks forward to continuing our contribution or partnership with the Joint Research Center of the European Commission in supporting Serbia and Ukraine, but maybe other participant countries. And for looking forward, and I think it's an important part of today's meeting, is the partnership in action as the next stage in this line of work reaffirms commitment by all participating entities to support capability building as required by member states to achieve the SDGs. UNIDO is particularly interested in the efforts towards achieving SDG 9, which covers industry, resilient infrastructure, and innovation. And the latest progress report produced by this work stream of the Interagency Task Team shows that member states, especially the least developed ones, have significant work to do in these areas. In this regard, UNIDO is revamping its policy advisory services. We expect to assist member states develop more sustainable industrial strategies and policies, leading with issues around digitalization, greening of the economy, gender and inclusiveness, for example. So with support from the government of Korea in particular, we are working to better integrate STI and industrial development, leveraging on experiences from developing countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So through the partnership in action, UNIDO reaffirms the commitment to boost international knowledge and technology flows for the SDGs and bolster linkages among innovation ecosystems and the promotion of diverse forms of innovation, including those targeting vulnerable segments of the population. Through the partnership in action, UNIDO aims to strengthen member states' collective ability to mobilize STI and industrial development to prevent and address global disasters like the one we are dealing today. STI and industrialization will remain key drivers of more inclusive and sustainable development, but as today's event shows, we need more and stronger collaboration internationally to succeed. So I would really like to encourage many of you to join this collective effort that is the partnership in action. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rodriguez. And in the interest of time, and we're way behind, I'm going to just thank each of the panelists and the discussants for their comprehensive updates on the STI applications for advancing the SDGs. So it gives me great pleasure to turn over for the next session to the next moderator, Mr. Jose Romano, who's the chairman of the Q Element Limited, and very importantly, past and current member of the 10-member TFM group that I have great pleasure working with. Over to you, Jose Ramon.
Thank you very much. Well, I hope to be up to the high standards of moderation of my previous G10 colleagues, Professor Bill Glasier, and of course you, Ms. Karisha, Abdul, Kareem. Well, as we have heard, the Partnership in Action on STI for SDGs is conceived as a multi-stakeholder informal technical group to support the STI roadmap work in the context of the TFM, the Technology Facilitation Mechanism. And one of its main aims is to help close the digital divide and support the digital inclusion of disadvantaged groups. It will serve as a platform to strengthen the development and implementation of STI for SDG roadmaps within the global pilot program. And this initiative is based on interested champion countries and the groups formed in connection to them, which will share their experience and achievements with the participants and provide certainly their reflections on the way forward. So I will go through the list of panelists as they have been presented, and I ask them to not exceed 3 minutes each. Well, it is my honor to present my also colleague of the G10, Ms. Maki Kawai, Director General of the Institute for Molecular Science, National Institute of Natural Science, Japan, and it's your floor, please.
Thank you, Jose. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and dear friends. As Jose introduced, I'm Maki Kawai. I'm a member of the third 10-member group appointed at the end of May. And I'm delighted to join this dialogue at the beginning of my term, and would like to congratulate the launching of the program of the Partnership in Action. Our new 10-member groups met in June and have started to discuss on our mission. We reaffirmed our full support to the Partnership in Action. I believe this is the vital partnership that fosters multi-stakeholder collaboration and the international STI cooperation towards investment in global public goods. Started in 2019, global pilot program was launched with 5 pilot countries, and in November 2020, Partnership in Action launched to scale up the global pilot program, and from this year, 2021, Ukraine joined to make the number to 6. And the successful growth of the program is based on the guidelines settled by DISA in 2020, which is published as the guidebook of the preparation of STI for SDGs roadmap. Based on this excellent guideline, the program is as attractive as before, and I believe it will grow further. Knowledge-based decision based on science, technology, and innovation is powerful when the society faces difficulty, such as at present. Fascinating, successful development of a vaccine was the result of the successful partnership between the multi-stakeholder to support STI and production platform. I believe we will overcome this difficult time and hope we can meet face-to-face next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Ms. Julia Baebeschenko, Director General of the Directorate on Science and Innovation, Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. Please, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you for the great opportunity, Excellencies, dear colleagues. So Ukraine supported the Global Development Agenda 2030, adopted 17 SDGs for country-specific context, and we have established the national system for their monitoring and assessment. We have the National Report Sustainable Development Goals Ukraine, where we have national targets, indicators, and benchmarks. According to special presidential decree It's also recommended to take SDGs up to 2030 into account when determining the areas of scientific research. We are in the process now. In Ukraine, 11 of 17 national SDGs include tasks for developing and implementing the innovative technologies. State strategic documents take into account STI and also strategy for innovation development, strategy for developing the defense industrial complex, and energy strategy, and other strategic documents are based on SDGs. However, we think that at the moment, these are not fully implemented in all the documents. And also we think about better implementation within financial, for example, instruments within those we have in the country. The government of Ukraine understands the crucial role of science, technology, and innovation for achieving SDGs and sustainable future of the world. So we see the STI for SDGs roadmaps as the key instrument to move forward toward comprehensive and effective accomplishment of SDGs, also taking into account the challenges provided by COVID-19 global pandemic. At the moment, we also create new set of the priorities for science, technology, and innovation within the country. We have done within the Ministry of Education and Science the comprehensive forecast using communicating with Ukrainian stakeholders, meaning the scientists, business, and so on, in order to create new set of priorities. They are also aligned with SDGs. This will create the fundament of the, it will be evidence-based fundament of the roadmap, and we will use the information from it. Also, we are thinking about our need to bridge the gap between setting development priorities and implementing them, especially at the regional level. So smart specialization strategies can be a powerful tool to help with this. We will also take this approach of multi-level smart specialization into our work on the roadmap. Also, the challenge is the government, because the coordination between different stakeholders, meaning inside the government, is highly challenging for us. And we see that it's very important to coordinate this work, also taking into account that we will have to implement it in well-coordinated way earlier. Also, we are thinking about some pilot programs within the rate of creating the roadmap in order to try different approaches for future implementation of it. So at the moment, we are on the way of our creating the roadmap of taking consultations within stakeholders. We will take this forecast, and I think that all this creates the fundament, the good start for our work on the roadmap. We think that this possibility for us is very great to align all the policies and to help to achieve SDGs. And also we hope that our experience will be helpful and useful for other countries, and will inspire them to also reach this activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very useful. Mr. Desta Baebeschenko, Director of Policy Strategy and Future Planning, Directorate in the Ministry of Innovation and Technology of Ethiopia. You have the floor, sir. Can anyone see Mr. Desta Baebeschenko, please?
Roman, I saw him at the beginning of the meeting. Probably he's not available at the moment. Maybe we can go to the next speaker.
In that case, yes, we go to Dr. Victor Nedovic, Director of Serbia Accelerating Innovation and Entrepreneurship Project, SAGE, in the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology Development of Serbia. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as it is already stated by our Ambassador, Mr. Ivanovic, but also by Mr. Alessandro Ranioldi, Serbia has adopted its science, technology, innovation for SDGs roadmaps earlier this year in April, and has started the implementation stage. The development of the STI for SDGs that is already mentioned roadmap is based on the smart specialization methodology that's explored in collaboration with JRC and UNIDO. The major priority areas are ICT, food for future, creative industries, future machines and manufacturing processes like vertical ones, plus horizontal support ones like key enabling and emerging technologies, energy efficiency, and eco-smart solutions. The most priority areas are directly or indirectly connected with SDGs that is already also demonstrated through the analysis in the document. The action plan has been adopted for the period from 2021 to 2022, only 2 years, in order to enable a timely revision of the objectives and identify the measures in a continuous dialogue with all stakeholders included in the process. For the implementation of the action plan, the amount of almost 18 billion of dinars has been assured for the whole period of 2 years. When we come to the measures in the action plan, we have in total 43 policy measures, 27 incentive ones, 8 informative and educational measures, 3 related to the provision of goods and services, and 5 regulative measures. Just to mention a few of them, in incentive ones, we have the public call for the grants of the Innovation Fund that enable cooperation of science and economy, co-financing the innovation, early development, innovation vouchers, and new program of acceleration. Then the open call for the grants of the Science Fund, calls of the Ministry of Education, Science, Technological Development related to the curriculum development, in particular in the field of entrepreneurship. Then the calls of the Ministry of Agriculture and support to IPART program, Ministry of Economy for the internationalization, and so on. We believe that Serbia's case will serve as a learning experience for other countries willing to design their STI strategies and plans to address sustainable and social challenges. Please allow me to emphasize the important role of STI for SDG roadmaps in the achievement of 2030 agenda and the need to expand the global pilot program and to welcome more countries. Serbia welcomed the partnership in action, expressed the willingness to co-lead the alliance, and is looking forward to partnering with IAT, with all other partner organizations along the 3 major pillars, building up national STI capabilities to address COVID-19 recovery and the SDGs, boosting international knowledge and technology flows for the SDGs, and brokering international STI cooperations for the SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now it's the turn of Dr. Wilhelmina Quay, Director of the CSIR, Science and Technology Policy Research Institute of Ghana. You have the floor, please.
Thank you. Can I be allowed to share my screen? Okay.
Yes, I think we can ask the controller to do that. Wei, if you here, can you allow?
Dr. Quay, yes, Mr. Chair. Dr. Quay, I strongly recommend if you don't share the PowerPoint, just for the sake of time. Thank you. We seems lost you.
I speak. Okay, so I share with you the
I believe your internet is unstable. I'm sorry, but I think your internet is unstable. We cannot hear what you are trying to express. Could you please, I mean, while you fix it, if you can, please, we will move on, and then you can come at the end of the. No, we cannot hear you. Please. Maybe you turn off your image. Maybe if you turn off your image, there will be less load on the Wi-Fi and the internet. Could you do that? Maybe try to do that.
Rolling out the STI for SDG roadmap.
We cannot hear you. I'm really sorry, Dr. Quay. If you turn off your image, then maybe at the end of the panelist session we can ask you to come. We cannot hear you. I'm sorry. No, we cannot. Yeah, just turn off your mic, please, and we move on. And then at the end of the panel session, we try again. Is that okay? Right. Thank you. So let's ask Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, Director General at the Research and Information System for Developing Countries of India. Take the floor, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Romano, for very interesting session. I think we had a very good start. Ambassador Koba has rightly laid out the broad sort of contours of how STI for SDGs is being leveraged by the pilot countries and the roadmap that we are setting in. And I'm so glad to hear from our colleague from UNESCO that there are 20 more countries prepared to take this forward. In India, what we have done is the sort of nomination by the Prime Minister of Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Professor Vijay Raghavan, to lead the STI for SDG roadmap in India. And as my friend Vilu identified from DESA, the broad sort of areas within which we are trying to work on indicative technology mapping, we have tried to come up with multi-layered approach in India to bring out the facts on what kind of indicative technology assessment framework we need, what kind of partnerships we can have in the South, and also the assessment mechanisms that are needed. Instead of going across all the 4 goals, what we have done is to shortlist 4 broad policy areas where we are trying to assess the developmental challenges India and many of our partner countries have. So we have thought of goal 2, which is about nutrition, goal 3, which is about health, goal 6, which is very much about water, and goal sanitation, and goal 7 about clean energy. So these 4 broad goals we have chosen as our priority areas, and India is working very closely with some of our partner countries where we can provide our inputs and mapping that is being done by us. The second point here is in terms of involvement with multi-stakeholder participation. And we are very much keen to connect with other pilot countries, and UNDSA, World Bank have been facilitating this process. And we are looking for our partnership in this area. And today we have very much heard of the new partnerships which we are going to come up, and Serbia's leadership here is of great significance, and I think the partnership would be of great consequence, as I believe. In the TFM, Mr. Romano, as you would appreciate, the partnership mechanism has to have the connects post-pandemic, particularly in terms of how the relevant technologies are made available, and how we can bring in analytical frameworks that are important with the access, equity, and inclusion as some of the areas. And vaccine production and its supply being the topmost priority, India and South Africa have evolved this proposal with TRIPS waiver, what kind of production capacities we can strengthen in developing countries across, so that quick vaccination programs are taken forward to many other countries that are going to play an important role as epicenters in terms of managing the science technology policy challenges, production capacity limitations, and STI for SDG can really help in this area. We already heard our colleagues in the previous panel, which I think was quite rich in terms of focusing on the capacities that are needed to deal with STI for SDG. So I'm very keenly looking forward for this pilot work to go forward, and Mr. Romano, for you to take our conversation forward in this session. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Professor Chaturvedi. Sorry. Professor Tom Peter Migun Ogada, Executive Director, African Center for Technology Studies of Kenya, please.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair, Moderator Romano. I'm glad to share with you the experience from Kenya. Very briefly, just to mention that this process we started in 2019 through 2020. The process in Kenya is being coordinated by the National Commission for Science and Technology and supported by the Department of Planning and Treasury. And the African Center for Technology Studies is providing technical support. We linked the roadmap to the current medium-term development agenda 2018-2022. And we focused initially the roadmap on SDG 2, which is agriculture, food security, and nutrition. I would like just to share with you briefly what has been done. We undertook a comprehensive analysis of gaps for the SDG 2, particularly focusing on SDG 2.3, which was considered more relevant to the current government agenda. And through the gap analysis, we were able to identify the entry points for STI. We analyzed the STIs and prioritized technologies that could help fill the identified gap, with focus being on existing technologies, both locally and abroad. And we zeroed down around technologies on post-harvest loss reduction and value addition. And I'm glad, Chair, to report that since then, the experience that was obtained from this exercise has been expanded to help covering definitely the issue arising from the current pandemic, particularly the COVID-19 and the issue of vaccine. But we have also different teams that are pursuing implementation of the roadmap on education and also in manufacturing. Finally, just to mention as lessons that we have learned from this exercise, first is that we really appreciate the STI roadmap as a very powerful tool for implementing STI policies. And I needed to mention that currently, just 2019, we launched the National Research Priority Areas for the countries that also focused on 4 sectors. And this tool is becoming very, very useful for implementing the same. And this year we have in place a draft science, technology, and innovation policy, which also this tool is actively participating towards addressing. But more importantly, providing the linkage between the implementation of various strategies for STI with the issues of addressing the SDG gaps within the country. More importantly, we appreciated the active involvement of stakeholders as key in realizing useful outcome from this exercise, but more importantly, the fact that by involving the stakeholders, then you are also ensuring successful implementation of the roadmap. And then finally, to mention that the implementation of the roadmap requires resources, and therefore from Kenya, we really laud the initiative on the international partnership to help bring on board several countries to participate in the roadmap, and we look forward to really collaborating with other pilot countries and sharing experience both in the region in Africa, but also globally. And thank you very much, Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Miguel-Nogada. I believe that Mr. Testa Baebeschenko is back, and I'll give him the floor, just asking him to do it within the 3 minutes, please.
Hello. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much. The Ethiopian government supports strongly this STI sector to support the science, technology, and innovation sectors that the Ministry of Innovation and Technology, or in an abbreviation means, is one in the basic ministry which mandated to lead, coordinate, and manage technological research and innovation matters at the national level. And the STI institutions in all regions, we have almost 10 regions and 2 city administrations. So the STI sectors are established in these all regions and city administration. So currently, for readiness issue, currently we are revising the comprehensive STI policy, science, technology, and innovation policy, which mainly focused on the job creation, wealth creation, and GDP contribution in the national economic development. We have the national agendas of the national economic, homegrown economic agendas. To support the homegrown national economic agenda, the STI sector is mainly basically focused, and the government gives priority on these sectors, especially to introduce the digitalization of the national digitalization system is based on the STI policy revision. Ethiopia is very aware of the importance to join the global pilot program on STI for SDG roadmaps. In this line, Ethiopia is working on the preparation of sectoral roadmaps. We have currently worked. We have almost sectoral 20 sectoral roadmap, depending on our comparative advantages. But we need the development sector or the international partnerships, STI for SDG roadmaps based on the national priority areas in line with the guideline elaborated by the UNA or AITT. Finally, I would like to welcome to establish the partnership in action will support the working on STI for the SDG roadmaps. So to support all our national goals and the homegrown economic agenda, we need the international partnership from the UNA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Desta Baebeschenko. In view of the fact that unfortunately Dr. Wilhelmina Quay,
I'm here. Can I?
Do you have a good Wi-Fi now?
Yeah. Can I share quickly?
Then go ahead.
Yeah.
Please, no more than 3 minutes, please, because
okay.
We are
so Ghana, we want to appreciate the support from UNESCO, especially, and also from our ministry for helping us get this STI for SDG roadmap through. We are at the point of implementation, and I'll quickly give you some few items from our implementation strategy. We are looking at resilient agriculture, building our research front to get improved varieties to increase our yields. We are looking at improving our processing and value addition with emerging technologies, not just entering into the domestic market, but also regional and international trade as well with our agricultural commodities. Inclusive and equitable access to education. We are looking at open science, infrastructure, and quality, competency, and employability skills of the youth. And we are also looking at improving access to quality health with STI, looking at infrastructure, public health, and emergency response, and most especially rolling out the STI dimensions of our response to the COVID. We are also looking at sustainable water management and management of our resources with STI emerging technologies. And lastly, I want to share that we are also looking at industrial transformation with application of frontier technologies and harnessing the innovation potential of our youth. And so basically, the roadmap lays out all the activities, the key activities that we are going to embark on. We also make sure that it is aligned to our development strategy and also the work that is already being done in governance. And so we would also want to stress the fact that we are into the stage of revenue or resource mobilization, and so we are open for partnership in action. We are also asking for the development cooperation to help us with this revenue resource mobilization to be able to implement our objectives and strategies in the roadmap. Of course, we are not looking down on homegrown solutions, and so our intention is to strengthen the homegrown solutions and to make sure that we are very much open for the emerging technologies that we don't have in our system. And with this, I would like to also thank you for your attention, and we want to stress the partnership in action as we roll out the STI for SDG strategies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Quay. You are very, very happy that you managed to solve the issues and that we
of course, yes, thank you. And
passionate.
I had a PowerPoint which I've shared with the organizers. I think it should be
yeah, please send it in writing.
Thank you.
It's great hearing you. Okay, now this ends the list of panelists. Now we have 4 discussants. And please, in view of the time, we will not give you more than 2 minutes each, please. First, Mr. Hambani Masheleni, head of STI division, African Union. Please, you have the floor. I think you are muted or something. I cannot hear you. No, we cannot hear you. There's something. No. Well, while you fix it, we go on, and then we'll try again. Please, Professor Samia Charfi Kadur, General Director of Scientific Research, Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, Tunisia. Please, you have the floor, and then we'll try again with Mr. Masheleni, please.
Thank you very much. Dear distinguished participants, it is my great pleasure to present the contribution of Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research of Tunisia to this high-level dialogue on partnership action in STI for SDGs. Tunisia strongly supports STI as key elements for the sustainable development and the economic development based on knowledge. Our ministry set up a national research system with a large number of research laboratories and units, around more than 500 units and labs, with the financial support. Thanks to this effort, important achievement has been obtained in academic research with an international recognition. Then we have defined national priorities for scientific research after a large consultation. And these national priorities are really completely aligned to SDGs. And now Tunisian priority is to enhance sharing knowledge and technology transfer from research to society, and to use science, technology, and innovation to achieve digital and green transition to improve life of our society and to reach sustainable development. The Tunisian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research is aware of the importance of to join the global pilot program on STI for SDGs roadmap. In this line, Tunisia is working on the expression of its interest in joining the pilot countries to this global pilot program as soon as possible. Tunisia opted for the development of STI for SDGs roadmap based on smart specialization methodology and in line with guidebooks elaborated by the UN IITT and the Joint Research Center of European Commission, GRC, which I would like really to to thank very warmly for their support. And I would like to say that Tunisia is the first country from Africa and Arab region which has adopted this methodology of smart specialization. Smart specialization is an innovative approach aimed at stimulating economic growth and jobs and award region the identification and the development of their competitive advantages and also the identification of the gaps. Through its partnership approach, smart specialization mobilizes local authorities, academia actors, economic sphere, civil society to work together for the development and implementation of a long-term regional development strategies. And we have already defined the 3 pilot regions in Tunisia. In the north.
Please wrap it up now, please.
Okay, just I would like to finally, I would like to welcome the establishment of the partnership in action, which will support the work on STI for SDGs roadmaps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Hambani Masheleni, are you available? Apparently not. Well, then we move on to Ms. Gloria Marmolejo, Vice President for RDI, Agri-Food Councils of Mexico, State Council for Science and Technology, Colima State, Mexico. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I'm honored to be invited to this meeting to visualize the important value of STI for the construction of the 2030 agenda. We adopted the smart specialization strategy in the past and now focus it on sustainable development, identifying the STI as an engine of development of the territories. And the strategy is implemented under the leadership of the productive sectors and regional governments. And for this, we identified 3 development pillars and 4 transversal axes to build sustainable economic growth, social development, and environmental care with a more systemic vision. Development pillars are governance, infrastructure, and innovation ecosystems. Cross-cutting are digitization, social and transformative innovation, sustainability, and communications. In the agri-food sector, as an example, we are promoting the change of the mindset by applying the 3 pillars. Also, we are creating and promoting programs for the transversal axis, such as agri-food innovation centers in a few states of Mexico, experimental crops to resolve abiotic crop stress, such as experimental crops of papaya and chile habanero in Colima State for transition to sustainable crops. Also, we visualize the importance of the transition to mixed crops, such as the Algovia farm in Tapachula, Chiapas. This is a green farm too. And finally, we are promoting a program of scientific disclosure and appropriation for kids, focused on agriculture to generate talent, new opportunities, and territorial routing to mitigate migration, that it is very important. Example of it is the Antonio Esteves banana farm in Madrid, Colima. Our slogan, knowledge is the basis of the sustainable development of the territories. So we must invest in STI with a strategy, with a roadmap, and thank you very much for the time.
Excellent, thank you very much. Dr. Dumisani Tembu, Senior Specialist, Multilateral Environmental Agreements, Department of Science and Innovation, South Africa. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We are delighted to be part of this event. South Africa's journey of consolidating the STI can be traced back to 1996 when we adopted the White Paper on Science and Technology. That was after the democratic dispensation. Between 1996 and 2019, we've undergone a number of transformative endeavors from the STI point of view. Recent reviews show that as South Africa, the national system of innovation has made significant progress up until now. For instance, the STI institutional landscape and policy and regulatory environment has expanded, and yet a lot more can still be done to ensure STI is fully mainstreamed in South Africa's development agenda and also becomes a catalyst for it. In between 2005 and 2018, for instance, we developed a 10-year innovation plan, which implemented our white paper, and we also developed legal and institutional framework. And we then began to see that the NSI was beginning to respond to the challenges of post-1994. Currently, we've just adopted a new white paper on science, technology, and innovation that was developed to respond to broad issues that South Africa is facing. We've also developed a national development plan, which we are implementing in 3 phases. And currently, we're in the 2nd phase, and which is trying to lay more foundations for more intensive improvements in the innovation sector across government, state, and business. And as a department, we are particularly interested in partnership in action program, and would like to explore it further with a view to determine how countries like South Africa can be assisted as they participate in the next wave of countries to join the pilot program. Having put all policy and institutional framework in place, we see the STI for SDG roadmap as the mechanism that can be used effectively to rally the NSI and government as a whole to respond to the SDGs and other pressing challenges that we face.
Yeah. Please wrap it up.
We're looking forward to learn from the experiences of other countries as we embark on this journey. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I can see that Mr. Masheleni is back, hopefully with voice, so you have the floor.
Thank you, moderator. I hope I got the voice now. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Thank you very much. My name is Amban Masheleni from the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa. We are pleased to join this meeting today discussing the partnership in action. We do believe that SDG roadmaps are creating a conducive environment that facilitates the establishment or creation of global partnerships with the co-shared responsibility to enable us to address the SDGs. We are aware that North-South, South-South, and regional collaboration will be very critical for us to deliver on the SDGs. We need to utilize our range of diversity, our existing capacities and expertise within us as partners. Our method of implementation has been an integrated systematic approach within the framework of our UN, AU, African Union, the United Nations systems cooperation, so as to encourage the entire participation of the continent. We are glad that our countries are participating in the STI roadmaps, and we are ready to mobilize more countries to come on board and to create opportunities to raise the visibility of the SDG roadmaps within the African continent. 2 things we want to emphasize is also to encourage intra-Africa collaboration. We've got 55 countries, and we want to see them working on these SDGs collectively together. And the third point, is, the last point we want to emphasize is the power of international collaboration, science diplomacy. We are doing quite a lot with the European Union. Last year, we had a ministerial meeting that actually adopted 4 critical areas that we need to push to fight COVID jointly. So with this, Mr. Moderator, I thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. That's my alarm telling me that the time was up. All right, thank you very, very much. We have had a fantastic panel and discussions here. Let me close this panel with some concluding remarks. I think in a world of accelerated technological change and global challenges, no country or society will ever overcome existential risks if others are excluded from the effective implementation of STI roadmaps towards the SDGs. We crucially need more feasible, efficient, sustainable, and inclusive STI strategies. However, developing good STI roadmaps is resource intensive and takes time. Internationally, there is a lot of expertise available on how to construct a good roadmap, although it is not available where it is needed. Despite very limited resources, we must praise the IATT, which has provided a crucial and extraordinary support to cover this vital need. Unfortunately, it is not enough, and the UN is underfunded to be able to find or reallocate resources. This is why establishing new partnerships is a creative way to delivering on the ground and raise new funds. Some important proposals have been presented here, and I try to summarize are, we need to boost public perception and the public momentum in favor of the strategic importance of STI for SDGs and of national planning. The IATT and STI forums have done a tremendous job in this regard, but it is vital to do much more in this decade of action. Active partnership with government representatives and other stakeholders should lead to establishing an alliance to support the partnership and action of STI for SDG road mapping group in New York. I think this is vital. And this alliance could be briefed on the endeavors of the IATT working group and provide strategic advice on how to move forward, including as it relates to fundraising and the online technology platform the IATT is establishing. We need a new and enhanced way of delivering at the country level, and the unprecedented partnership among 45 UN agencies participating in the IATT and the experience by the 6 pilot countries demonstrate the importance of multi-stakeholder partnership at the national level, as well as of a coherent cooperation between the different UN agencies working at the country level, ministries of finance, relevant private representatives, and the STI road mapping exercise. Well, finally, we need new forms of fundraising. We need to formalize and build on the expressed willingness of many organizations and people who are prepared to contribute to the work of the UN, particularly towards the implementation of the SDGs. Now, it is my great, great pleasure to give the floor to excellencies who are going to offer us with closing remarks. First of all, I have His Excellency, Mr. Andres Pildegovic, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Latvia to the United Nations and co-chair of the 2021 STI Forum. And sorry if I mispronounced your name. You have we cannot hear you. Please unlock your phone, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the permanent missions of Ghana and Japan, UNDESA, European Commission's Joint Research Center, Unesco, UNECA for organizing this high-level discussion and keeping STI for SDGs on our agenda. It's been a true pleasure for myself and for the mission of Latvia to contribute to the revival of STI Forum this year by co-chairing it together with my dear colleague, Ambassador Kobe of Indonesia. As it has been said today, SDGs roadmaps and the Global Pilot Program represent tangible outcome of discussions during the STI Forum and the work undertaken in the context of technology facilitation mechanism. The Partnership in Action initiative is thus a welcome tool for scaling up and promoting further work. I thank all the current and future pilot countries, champions, interested members and parties for sharing their experience and expectations. I would like to join those who have emphasized the importance of promoting effective multi-stakeholder partnership in the work of STI for SDGs. Like for any policy or plan, STI for SDGs roadmap can only be helpful and actionable if stakeholder engagement is ensured at every stage, from inception to implementation. Only through multi-stakeholder engagement, meaningfully and consistently engaging private sector, academia, women scientists and innovators and youth, an objective assessment of the status quo and buy-in for the work that is ahead of us can be assured. Yet stakeholder engagement and participation has been reported as one of the challenges when implementing the pilots. So I encourage the pilot countries and the champions of this initiative to continue the work and exchange of the best practices for incentivizing and encouraging multi-stakeholder engagement and cooperation. Dear colleagues, COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated very clearly the power of science, technology, and innovation, and undoubtedly it will play a decisive role in addressing other global challenges, from climate change to food system transformation. In this regard, I hope that more countries will benefit and engage in the STI for SDGs roadmap work that already demonstrates collaborative spirit. For successful implementation international cooperation, a certain common understanding and objectives are needed. I believe with the expensive methodological guidance developed through STI for SDGs roadmaps, work stream, and the common commitment for 2030 agenda and for SDGs is the right way to ensure both. I thank the organizers and all participants of this rich discussion, and I wish all the best in your further work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Please, His Excellency, Mr. Kimihiro Ishikane, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Japan to the United Nations. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really delighted to give the closing remarks at this, launching of Partnership in Action. I congratulate all the speakers for today's very meaningful dialogue. And we have really seen a number of insightful recommendations and next steps, as well as the illustrative examples from pilot countries where STI roadmaps are being used as a key strategic policy intelligence tools involving the highest level of government to identify gaps in technology market, R&D needs, and STI capabilities. And Japan is particularly honored to be able to support the important work of the Global Pilot Program as a partner country, and in the role that we as member state have in supporting the work of the UN Technology Facilitation Mechanism. I have noted that many of today's speakers have demonstrated the conviction through their commendable efforts that STI roadmaps have the potential to promote interdisciplinary and collaborative work across silos among all STI stakeholders at the local, national, regional, and global levels, and to enhance policy alignment of national STI agenda with the SDGs. On the other hand, I have also noted several common challenges drawn from experiences of the pilot countries, including the involvement of STI stakeholders and the development of technology for the SDGs, as well as lack of data and specific budget to develop, and more importantly, to implement STI roadmaps. This is why we need to push ahead with great ambition and greater partnership. And to this end, let me propose 3 concrete steps forward for your consideration. Number 1, we encourage colleagues from the pilot countries to find effective linkages between STI for SDGs roadmaps and their action plans on one hand, and the national development plans and bilateral and multilateral development aid efforts on the other. And I think this will allow countries to optimize budget appropriation and engage with a broader set of development partners towards the achievement of SDGs. 2, it would be useful to develop and implement investment cases for the prioritized SDGs identified in the STI roadmap with special attention to inclusiveness and the empowerment of people being left behind. With analysis based on detailed budgeting data, transformative results will help potential partners join in this initiative. And 3rd, finance is an integral part of the partnership in action. To this end, it would be worthwhile to pursue the mobilization of markets as well as investment and finance by the private sector, research institutions, and other STI stakeholders, while ensuring transparent and accountable reporting. So in conclusion, Japan calls for greater recognition of the transformative power of STI and support for the partnership in action. We will seek alliance with IATT, member states, and STI stakeholders to sharpen our vision and to contribute to the global efforts to build back better from COVID-19. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now it's my pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Silvio Gonzalo, Ambassador, Deputy Head of Delegation of the European Union to the United Nations. You have the floor, please. If you can open your microphone, please. At least I cannot hear you, sir. No.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay, I beg your pardon. It's Microsoft Teams is always a challenge for me. Although we're talking about science, technology, and innovation, I'm still not there. But anyway, I'm very pleased to be here today because it's been an interesting discussion, a discussion that we had wished for when we met at the high-level side event at the margins of the STI forum a few months back, and where we had suggested to have a further exchange and to have further dissemination, make further dissemination efforts during the HLPF. So it's been great to follow the high-level dialogue today that has really underlined the need to scale up the efforts and open the global pilot program to more countries. This is a timely effort that we need to do in order to develop, operationalize knowledge-based pathways towards sustainable recovery, which is at top of the global agenda these days. And we need to make these efforts to widen and open the global pilot program, inclusive, open to all interested countries so that no one is left behind. If we want to achieve this, I think we need more and more countries to join efforts, resources, and to mobilize partners. And for this, I believe that the Partnership in Action, supported by the alliance of like-minded countries, will play a key role in steering donors and in mobilizing resources. Some speakers before me recognized the important role played by the Joint Research Center of the European Commission in bringing forward many important achievements under these initiatives. And I would like to use this opportunity to confirm our willingness to join the alliance to support the Partnership in Action of STI for SDG road mapping, and to keep working together with all of you on scaling up our efforts. So rather than conclude my speech by saying that, by concluding also this event, I would just like to underline the need to continue our efforts and to continue to work together and to call on others to join this alliance. Thank you very much, Jose.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now it's my pleasure to give the floor to Mrs. Cynthia Asare Bediako, Chief Director, Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation of Ghana. Please, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Moderator, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I can't agree more with the earlier speakers on the need for us to mobilize extra resources through partnership, and the fact that the wake-up call that COVID-19 brings to all countries for effective mobilization of STI ecosystems is undebatable. And I want to do my hat off for all of you who have joined this STI for SDG roadmap development and the Partnership for Action for mobilizing to meet these challenges through STI. From the presentation of Mrs. Quay, you can see that Ghana is already at the implementation path, and we acknowledge that closing the technology and innovation gaps in the developing world cannot just be handled by any one particular country. Therefore, Partnership in Action demands the responsibilities of all stakeholders in the STI ecosystems, public-private sector partnership at different scales and levels of governance, the role of the youth in developing innovative concepts and creation of green jobs in all the productive sectors of the economy. We also agree that continental timelines put a lot of pressure on us in that Agenda 2030 is not too far away, and I believe we are racing against time. Therefore, we need to respect our own timelines, and Partnerships in Action requires strengthening political commitments and accelerating actions on the ground. Working closely with and complementing ongoing efforts by all stakeholders and ensuring that STI drives all sectors of the economy is therefore very critical. In doing this, we want to keep our eyes on addressing STI-related challenges such as inadequate scientific expertise in the country, weak coordination among STI and non-STI institutions, ineffective advocacy at the highest level, low science, technology, and innovation issues among the populace, and lack of data and information on STI opportunities, which are lacking. We may, however, leverage on emerging technologies and minimize their respective effects. We have innovation hubs to drive generations of homegrown innovation and capacities to incubate entrepreneurial ideas for job creation. And we also want to leverage on continental programs and policies such as the Continental Free Trade, ongoing digitization, interventions and opportunity to assess impacts and possibility of upscaling, available research findings, and opportunity for Ghanaian scientists and technologists to link up international research centers and world-class research programs, private sector involvement in demand-driven research and development, and possibility of using Ghanaian experts in the diaspora. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we also recognize the advantages in spite of the devastating effects of the COVID-19 in using science technology effectively to drive homegrown technologies. And therefore, also in support of our earlier speaker, in making sure that we align our interventions with our national development plans and actions, we are encouraging and inviting development partners to access the Ghana's STI for SDG framework and form collaboration with Ghana and all like-minded STI for SDG partners in moving this agenda forward. And we look forward to hearing from most of you and stretching our arms for all of us to move STI for SDGs and ensure that come 2030, we can all smile at what we've been able to do through this framework. Thank you very much for your attention, and I want to congratulate everybody who has participated in this process, and I know that it's going to yield positive response as we move from here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for this very positive message. And now, and finally, it's my honor to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Harold Ageman, Ambassador and Permanent Representative, Permanent Mission of Ghana to the United Nations. Please, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ramon. And mine is just to thank everyone, the distinguished panelists and all the contributors for the wonderful and extensive insights that you've brought to bear in today's discussion. I think that going forward, it's clear that, as had been indicated by my colleague, the Deputy Permanent Representative from Serbia, that Ghana and Serbia will be taking the lead in establishing a multi-stakeholder technology facilitation mechanism alliance to support the partnership in action of STI for SDGs. And we invite all other partners to join. Also, it is necessary to strengthen both the Global Secretariat and country teams that provide support for an enhanced way of delivering at the country level. And thirdly, we have to explore new forms of fundraising to further strengthen and broaden opportunities building on these voluntary possibilities. I am confident that today's meeting marks a new starting point and that these steps would continue to be discussed at various forums and meetings. I thank you all and wish you all a good day wherever you are and a very good weekend. Thank you, Ramon.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Well, with this, we end with this very, very positive declarations and closing speeches. I end my list, and I wonder if Desa, Way maybe, has something to say regarding procedures. You have the floor, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Excellencies. It's really a great pleasure to hear all these great, strong presentations. And I can assure you that I will, from DESA side, we will work with our colleagues from interagency task teams, European Union, European Commission, Joint Research Center, and others to move all these recommendations forward. We'll have a working level meeting following this meeting, and we'll have a meeting summary and video recorded. And I can assure you that we'll carry this work forward. Thank you. Bye.
Bravo, bravo.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, everybody.
All the best.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye.